Mama Bluter. We got to get to it. Mama Bluter and Aliyah Boston speaking on the GOAT CC on NBC Sports. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
One of the most transcendent players in the history of women's basketball, and Caitlin Clark, and it's her birthday today. You guys both shouted her out.
Yes,
Coach Bluter and Aliyah. Yeah, you can see.
Lisa Bluter and Aliyah Boston just delivered one of the most authentic and heartfelt moments you'll see anywhere in sports media. Two people who very clearly care about Caitlin Clark, celebrating her birthday while talking openly about their relationship and connection. And it's impossible to watch that exchange without immediately thinking about what's happening with the Indiana Fever's coaching situation right now. Because the chemistry, the trust, and the understanding they are describing are exactly what feels missing in Indianapolis under Stephanie White's system. But this isn't about coaching drama today. That's not what this video is really about. The reason this moment matters is because while players are posting birthday tributes and talking about team chemistry, the WNBA is quietly sitting in the middle of a financial crisis that could fundamentally reshape the entire league. And when I say fundamentally change everything, I mean everything. From how teams are built, to how players are paid, to what the long-term future of the league actually looks like.
Coach, and then Aliyah doing a matchup of pictures, which is really sweet. I love this for you guys because you guys are both still really close. Obviously, Aliyah as a current teammate, but how close are you still, Coach, to Caitlin?
Oh, I talk to her quite often. I follow all of her successes and everything. I just always want to be in her camp and support her. I have so much admiration for her, for what she has.
Mama Bluter, we love you. Lisa Bluter. Mama Bluter, we love him.
That's the dream scenario Fever fans have been imagining ever since the day Lisa Bluter retired. The coach who helped develop Caitlin Clark, coaching the player who naturally plays best alongside Caitlin. Instead, Indiana finds itself with a coach attempting to turn Aliyah Boston into a hub player, which is about as effective as trying to teach a fish how to climb a tree. But here's what actually matters for this video. While Bluter and Boston are celebrating relationships, trust, and team chemistry, the WNBA Players Association is locked in a standoff with league owners over a proposed deal that owners say would cost them $700 million. That's not an exaggeration. That's not a typo. The claim is clear. Accepting the players' demands would result in $700 million in losses.
Now, the players' union is sitting here. The WNBA owners came out and said, listen, we're not doing this deal. What y'all trying to get us to sign will put us $700 million in the hole, and we are not in the business of doing that. So you guys can basically kick rocks is essentially what the WNBA owners told these players. And the WNBA players, they've been going on there trying to win public perception battle.
$700 million. Let that number really sink in for a moment. WNBA owners have publicly stated that the deal the Players Union is pushing would put them $700 million in the red. The Players Union's response has been to push back hard, insisting that number isn't accurate. They've taken their case to social media, posting on Instagram, asking fans to sign petitions, and encouraging people to email the WNBA office. What they haven't done is meaningfully move negotiations forward. And here's where things get especially interesting. According to ESPN, the owners haven't responded to the players' most recent proposal in nearly a month. Complete radio silence. And when you actually look at what the players submitted, it's essentially the same proposal the owners already rejected. The same revenue sharing structure that would create that $700 million financial gap.
Our priority is a deal that significantly increases player salaries, enhances the overall player experience, and supports the long-term growth of the league for current and future generations of players and fans, the league said in a statement earlier this month. So we are still at a standstill.
So let me walk you through what's really happening here, because the details matter. For the first time in this process, both sides have agreed on one core principle. Player compensation should be directly tied to league revenue. That's the first genuine point of agreement on anything fundamental. But everything falls apart when it comes to how that revenue is defined. The owners want compensation tied to net revenue, which means revenue after expenses are paid. The players want compensation tied to gross revenue, which means the total money coming in before any costs are deducted. Under the league's latest proposal, players would receive the equivalent of roughly 70% of net revenue based on current projections. But here's the catch: that percentage is not explicitly guaranteed. The formula doesn't ensure owners make a profit, and teams would absorb the impact of revenue shortfalls or rising expenses, including costs they can't fully control. Think about what that means in real terms. If the WNBA signs a massive television deal worth $300 million, but then has to spend $200 million on production, travel, marketing, and league operations, the net revenue comes out to $100 million. Under the owner's proposal, players would receive a share of that $100 million. Under the player's proposal, using gross revenue, compensation would be calculated from the full $300 million, regardless of what it costs to generate that revenue. And that difference sits at the very center of this entire conflict.
Love and miss you. Why can't you just come get Stephanie White the hell out of here, man? Mama Bluter, why are you leaving us to deal with this Stephanie White lady? God, man, you know how much easier and at peace Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever fans could be if Lisa Bluter was the head coach. Think about how easy.
And this is where things stand right now. A complete standstill. The article claims that the future of the league is hanging in the balance. But I don't actually think that's true. I think the owners have already made their decision. At this point, they are simply waiting to see if the players blink first. Because here's the part nobody seems to be talking about. The owners' silence isn't confusion. It isn't indecision. It's strategy. They are not responding because they don't need to respond. Their final offer is already on the table. The players rejected it and sent back essentially the same proposal the owners already said no to. And now, behind the scenes, the owners are preparing to move forward without them if they have to, including the possibility of replacement players. Look at the timeline. Months ago, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner who holds significant influence over WNBA operations, told players directly that revenue sharing was not going to happen. He made it clear that salaries had already been increased substantially, just not through a revenue sharing model. The players publicly said they had a great relationship with Silva, and then they ignored everything he told them and continued pushing for revenue sharing anyway. Now the owners have stopped responding altogether. That's not a negotiating tactic. That's preparation for a lockout. The league office and ownership groups have a date in mind. I guarantee it. A deadline where, if no agreement is signed, they move forward with replacement players and a new season without the current roster. And honestly, the owners may be justified in doing so, because the math behind what the players are proposing simply does not work. It isn't sustainable. You cannot run a business that guarantees itself a $700 million loss. That's not negotiation. That's financial suicide. Listen to what Lisa Bluter says in that clip. She talks about supporting Caitlin, being firmly in her corner, and expressing genuine admiration for what she's accomplished. That's what a healthy professional relationship looks like. Trust, support, mutual respect. Now compare that to what's happening between the WNBA Players Association and league ownership. There is no trust. The players are trying to win a public perception battle instead of negotiating in good faith. The owners have stopped responding entirely. Both sides are preparing for conflict instead of partnership. The Players Union is asking fans to email the WNBA office and sign petitions. Think about how desperate that sounds. You're a professional athletes union, and your primary strategy is online activism. That's not negotiation. That's what happens when you've already lost leverage and you're trying to generate public pressure as a last resort. What makes this situation especially frustrating is the timing. The WNBA just had its best season ever. Caitlin Clark brought millions of new fans into the league. Television ratings were up across the board. Attendance shattered records. Merchandise sales exploded. For the first time, the league had real momentum, real mainstream attention, real cultural relevance. Everything the WNBA has been chasing for decades finally arrived. And now, instead of building on that momentum, the league is heading toward a potential lockout because the Players Union is demanding a deal that would bankrupt the business. It's absurd. You finally have the spotlight. You finally have leverage. You finally have public interest. And you're about to throw it all away over a revenue-sharing model that Adam Silver already told you was not happening. The owner's proposal would significantly increase players' salaries. According to the article, it would give players the equivalent of roughly 70% of net revenue. That's not a bad deal. That's not ownership being greedy. That's a legitimate offer, one that would make WNBA players some of the highest paid professional athletes in American sports relative to league revenue. But it still isn't enough for the union. They want gross revenue sharing. That means players get paid regardless of whether the league is profitable. Guaranteed money even if the business is losing money. And the owners are saying no, because that's not how businesses work. You cannot guarantee compensation that exceeds revenue. That isn't negotiation. That's fantasy. So where does this go from here? The players keep posting on Instagram. The owners keep preparing for replacement players. And the clock keeps ticking toward a deadline that neither side is publicly acknowledging, but both sides absolutely know is coming. The players' union believes they have leverage because of last season's success. They think the league can't afford to lose them. Can't afford a season without the star players who just generated all that attention. But the owners understand something the players don't seem willing to accept. The attention wasn't about the WNBA as a league. It was about Caitlin Clark as an individual. And if Caitlin Clark crosses the picket line, or if the league moves forward with replacement players and Caitlin is one of them, the owners win. Because fans came for Caitlin, not for the WNBA Players Association. That's the uncomfortable reality of this negotiation. The union's leverage shrank the moment Caitlin Clark became bigger than the league itself. And if the players don't recognize that soon, they may find themselves locked out while replacement players take their jobs and their salaries. The article ends by saying discussions have reached a standstill. But that's just corporate language for what's really happening. The owners have made their final offer. The players rejected it. Now we're waiting to see who blinks first. And if I'm betting on ownership holding firm. They're the ones with the financial statements. They're the ones who know exactly how much money the league brings in and how much it costs to operate. And they are not going to sign a deal that guarantees $700 million in losses simply because the players' union believes it deserves it. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do the players actually have leverage here? Or are they about to learn a very expensive lesson about business negotiations? Do you think the owners are bluffing about replacement players? Or are they fully prepared to move forward without the current roster? And most importantly, if this ends in a lockout, who are you supporting? The players fighting for revenue sharing, or the owners trying to keep the league financially viable? Because this isn't just about money. This is about the future of the WNBA. And right now, that future is sitting on the edge while both sides refuse to compromise. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video because this story is far from over.